All right.
Okay, I think we're good there, Jace.
Okay, so live streaming is also recording then?
Yes.
Gotcha. Well, hey everyone, welcome to Upstate Carolina Linux Users Group and why can't I say it right? The Columbia Linux Users Group, the South Carolina Lugs. It's great to have everyone here. I appreciate it. And tonight's talk is on Cron, the Linux scheduler. Those of you that have been using Cron for a while, I had mentioned before, but I'm just going to say again, if you're used to it, just bear with me for the first little bit. This is meant for a beginner, but the gotchas at the end should benefit you as well. So here we go. Cron is the Linux scheduler. So what it is, it's a way to schedule tasks or jobs, and what we call them is cron jobs. And cron is a time-based job scheduler. In other words, it's not event-driven. It's not user-driven at the command line or something like that. It is based on time. The word cron, the name cron comes from Kronos, the god of time. The Greek god of, is it Greek or Roman? Anyway, doesn't matter. Cron is time. Everything that cron does is based on the cron table or cron tab. You'll see it called most of the time. Each line, or you might consider it a row if you're a database person, of this table is a scheduled job. So you can think of the cron tab as kind of a CSV, comma separated values, but except they're space separated. And each field needs to be filled in. There has to be, is it 6 or 7 fields? And they all have to be there. And they are all separated by spaces. And each cron tab, the cron tab is evaluated every minute to see if a job should be run. So the cron tab format, or it's also called cron expression, is these 6 fields that you see that I've got here, 6 white space separated fields. I put the color codes in here to help us see through them. So red I put here. I put the abbreviation min in my comments right here, so that I know that it's minutes. The minutes can be from 0 to 59, obviously. Orange here is the hour, and hours can be from 0 to 23 because there's only 24 hours in a day. This is military time, of course. So anything in the PM has to be 12 plus that number. So 1 PM is 1300, and midnight is 0, of course. What I call DOM is the day of the month, the DOM, and that is 1 through 31. Of course, not all months have 31 days. So if you want to schedule something on the last day of the month, you may have difficulty. And your results may vary depending on your implementation of cron. If you say something like February the 31st, I have no idea what will happen then if you want to schedule something on that day. The 4th field, what I have here in green, is the month. And it is a value from 1 to 12. Obviously, there's 12 months in a year. Most implementations also accept the first 3 letters of the month day. And I don't think, depending on the implementation, the case is unimportant. So you can have Jan, Feb, Dec, that sort of thing for your month. I personally, because I go between different implementations, I tend to stay on the number, but that's just me. You don't have to do that. The 5th field is the day of the week, and that is 0 to 7. Now you say, Jace, there's only 7 days in a week, not 8. That's correct, because some of the early implementations went 0 to 6 with a Sunday-based day of the week, and some implementations went 1 to 7 with a Monday-based implementation. So Sunday is both 0 and 7 in those cases. 1 is Monday, and Tuesday will be 2, etc., etc. and likewise, most implementations also use the abbreviation, the first three letters as an abbreviation. Again, I personally use numeric. Now, from the white space after the fifth field, the day of the week field, to the end of the line is the command that you want to run as a job. So it can have spaces in it, which is essentially what I'm saying there. So it's white space separated, but you can have white space in the command part, and that's the last field. Before I go any further, feel free at any time to unmute yourself and ask questions. I'm pretty open about that, and sometimes I worry that I go too fast or something like that. So let me go over here to the right, which is an example of a cron tab file. You'll notice here that the first line, the color that I put for it is light blue, or shoot, what is that? Light blue. We'll call it light blue. Any line that starts with a pound sign or octothorpe or hashtag, whatever you want to call it, from that to the end of the line is a comment. So from the pound sign to the end of the line is a comment. So the first line here I've got is comment starts with a pound sign. Empty lines are also acceptable. So you'll notice that I put in empty lines here between the different entries. That's probably an organizational thing. I recommend that you use empty lines for to help yourself in the future read your cron tab file. I always put in as one of my first lines a comment that has here the format so that I don't forget it, and I put in, like I said, the abbreviations min, r, or her, dom, mon, dal, and kmd, minute, hour, day of the month, and day of the week, and then the command. And as I said, it's white space separated, but it doesn't matter whether that's multiple spaces or multiple tabs or a combination of the two. So you see here the first two actual cron jobs are doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. So you will see hello world echoed, as well as also hello world echoed every minute of every hour of every day of the month of every month of every day of the week of, well, there is no year, so but every minute essentially both of these would run. This first one I kind of did it so that it lines up with the fields you see, and sometimes I find myself doing that, and other times I'll just type it in like this. You'll notice here I've got the star character. I'm not quite sure what cron actually calls it, but I'm going to use the word modifiers. So you can use the star character, the asterisk or asterisk, or whatever you want to call that, splat, to indicate all of that field. So in the case of minute, that would be from 0 to 59. In hour, from 0 to 23. From dom, or from in the third field, from 1 to 31, and et cetera, et cetera. You can also do lists. Actually, let me do a one specific here. I put in the command to rerun is echo Sunday brunches in December, and so this job will run every Sunday in December at brunch time. So 11:30 a.m. is what I'm considering lunchtime for the purposes of this example. The day of the month, it's every day of the month in the month of December, which is 12, on the 0th day of the week, which is Sunday. Any questions on that so far? Sunday brunches in December. Okay.
One question. Where does the hello world and the output from this go, given that cron is going to run these jobs without any particular person logged in? In other words, there may not be a screen. It could be headless.
That's a good question. And the answer to that is that if you don't send the output to a file or something like that. And again, these are just examples, but for these particular examples, what would happen was it would be an email sent to the user,
Who owns the tab file?
who owns that cron tab file. Exactly. Yes. So in this particular example, so for the first hello world here, the subject of the email would probably be something along the lines of cron ran echo quote hello world quote, and then the contents of that email would be hello world, because that would be the output of echo in that case. So yeah,
Thank
you
you.
need to be sure that you have a mail agent running that send that output and send it to the proper mail system. Otherwise, all this stuff will be collected into your personal mail, and if you don't have mail set up on your headless system or whatever, then you're not going to know if any of these cron jobs run unless you redirect it to a file or something like that. But again, these are just simple examples.
Hey, Jason,
yeah.
do you just have one cron tab file, or do you have multiple ones?
There are multiple ones, and I'll explain that in a little bit.
Okay.
So going back to right here, the star is the modifier. So this is going to be running at, in this case, every day of the month. But you can also have lists separated by commas. So here I've got the every even month. I did the second month, the fourth month, the sixth. So that's what, February, April, blah, 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 October, December, right? And that's a comma separated list. Now notice there's no space after the comma or before the comma, because that would indicate that that's the next field. So you have to be sure to not have spaces when you use any of the modifiers. So you can have a list of different, in this case, we've got the different months and also the different days of the month. So this will run on the 5th and the 10th of February, April, etc., the even months. Another modifier here is the dash. So I've got, as the example, 0 to 11 for the hour. That's all the AM hours, which is why I've commented here AM. So from midnight to 11 AM, this will run on the 5th and 10th of the months of February, April, etc. Then the last modifier, and again, this depends on your implementation, is the slash, or yeah, /, which indicates steps. So this will, excuse me, because I'm using the star, which indicates all, and then the /2, that's going to be running at every even minute. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way up to 58. To do just the opposite, and I gave the alternative example of the odds at the PM hours. So for the comma separated list, I put in 1, 3, 5, right? So that's January, March, blah, 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 to November. And I decided to put it on the 2nd and 30th of those months. The PM times, I just for something different to use for the dash, that's 12 noon, which is 12 p.m., to 2300 hours, which is 11 p.m. And in this case, I wanted to have the odd minutes. So I started at 1, which is the first odd number in my first field, going to 59. So this will run at 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc., all the way to 59 minute of the PM hours on the 2nd and 30th of the month of January, March, etc., to November. Okay, just an example of all the different modifiers I wanted to have right there. You can also combine the modifiers, which is my last example here. I'm going to start backwards here. And so for every day of the week, every month, every day of the month, every hour, essentially every hour, I'm going to run, and I've got a list of 2, 0, and the rest of it. I've got 6 to 54, so the minute of 6 to 54, all inclusive, except that I'm stepping by 3. So that's going to be 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, right? Anyway, you get the idea, all the way up to 54. So the comment I put here is every 3rd minute except for 03 and 57, right? Because it goes from 0 to 6, skipping 03, that's in the comment, and then it didn't go up all the way up to 59, so it skips 57. Complicated example, I just wanted to show you that you can put a combination of all the modifiers together. And that's essentially the time format of cron tab, the cron expression. If you have any further questions, the man page is in section 5 of cron tab. The cron tab file. If you know your man's, if you know man, you would say man 5 cron tab, and that will tell you the format of the cron table. So section 5 is for documents, essentially. So if you ever see cron tab paren 5 paren, that means section 5 of the manual for cron tab. Okay, any questions before I go any further? Hearing none. So I mentioned there are several implementations. Probably the most common one is the Internet Systems Consortium, or also called ICS Cron. This used to be called VXI Cron. That's what I'm used to calling it. When VXI Cron became version 4.1, it was adopted by the Internet Systems Consortium. And I think it's pretty much stayed at 4.1 since then. Probably some bug fixes, but it's perfect, right? GNU also has a implementation of cron, which they called mcron, and Red Hat forked VXI Cron, and they call it Cronny. In addition, if you have an embedded system, or you just for some reason want to have BusyBox because it's just awesome, perhaps in your container, for example, BusyBox also has an implementation of cron, which I don't know the specifics of it, but that's why I would probably steer away from using the 3-letter month and day of the week sort of stuff. Because BusyBox is a trimmed down version of most stuff. Some other implementations of cron-like behavior is anacron and fcron. They're kind of they expand upon those fields in ways that I don't know specifically because I haven't used them much. But they're specifically for computers that may not always be online. In other words, they don't sit in a rack and are powered on all the time. They may be your laptop or your phone or something like that that has an intermittent power to it. Excuse me one second. Go ahead.
How would you enter a multi-line command if you can't fit it on one line?
Well, you just keep going. I'll get to that in a second. Also, that's one of my.
Okay.
You're stealing my thunder.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to help.
No, that's fine. In addition, a lot of programs also use a cron-like formats. For example, Jenkins has a cron-like format. Jenkins has a couple special ones too. They use like @weekly and @daily and @annually. And if you put a capital H in one of the fields, that will hash a number between the first and the last. So you could hash your minute. So you put a capital H, and for some jobs it'll be 13 minutes past the hour, and some it'll be 57 after the fact. Python has Chronitor, which also does a cron-like format. Like I say, these are just 2 examples that I found, but a lot of things use cron tab sort of stuff. So how do you put stuff in the cron tab? You use the cron tab program. Cron tab is a program, and that's why I have here cron tab paren 1, which is section 1 of manual. In other words, the program called a cron tab. And you can edit your cron tab from the command line using cron tab-E. Every user has a cron tab, or can have a cron tab rather. So you can run cron jobs as yourself. You can run them as root. You can run them as system accounts, or say Apache or something like that, which is not a user, but it's a user account. So every user has a cron tab file for themselves. So when you use cron tab-E, which is for edit, cron tab-E to edit, and in fact here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to pull up my command line and show y'all how it works. Cron tab program. Nope, not that one. That one. Right. There we go. Okay. So cron tab. I'm first going to list my current cron tab, and it shows that there is no cron tab for user Jace, which is me. So cron tab-E to edit the cron tab. Now all this is just put in by default, and it's essentially a little bit of documentation reminder stuff that you have here. They put in this last line here, minute, hour, day of the month, day of the week command, which is essentially what I put in mine anyway. They also say, read the manual of, section 5 of the cron tab manual, section 5 of the manual for cron tab for the format of this file. And if you want to know about the cron daemon, that's section 8. But anyway, so here's where I would put in my cron tab: star, 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 star. Wait. Is there another star? Star? Nope. Hey, look at that. My editor knows what color codes it too. I should have used these color codes. I'll be dang. Oh well. So this would be a cron. What I'm going to do here is, for the benefit of everyone here, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to put in some sort of, I'm going to put an array in here, right? I'm going to put X, right? Now, my editor no longer shows color. There, that looks better. See, I put star, X, comma, and then space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit it, exit my editor, and the reason that you want to use the cron tab file program, which edits your cron tab file, is because it does verification for you. So it looked at my cron tab file, which was a temporary file right here. It says bad command. Errors in the cron tab file can't install. You want to retry the same edit. So yes, of course I do. I was dumb. Oh, that is what it is. I don't want an X there. Let me get rid of that. Oh, bad minute. Okay, so what have I got here? I got star, comma. Okay, what I want to do is do that. I'll tell you what, since I don't want this to actually do anything, I'm gonna comment it out. And there we go. It installed that cron tab for me. All right. So I'm going to list what it is, and there it is. Everything's a comment, so it doesn't really do anything, but I can use the cron tab-L to list what's in my cron tab. Cron tab-E to re-edit that file again. Okay, this is nice, but let's see. I already know all that stuff. I'm going to delete all that. I'm just going to leave the last line there, which is going to remind me. And in fact, you know what? I like it the way I like it. Day of the month, day of the week. Command. All right. Cron tab-L to list. There it is, much smaller now. Okay. So that's the benefit of using cron tab. The cron tab program to edit my cron tab file. Now you'll notice that it came up in my editor, which I kept saying my editor. My editor is Vim, and VI is in fact the default editor for cron tab. So what if you don't know how to use VI? what do you do then? Well, this is just kind of a normal Unix thing. There's an environment variable called editor, and for me it is set to VI. There's also one called visual, which I also have set to VI. Now this is because I have manually set that in my bash RC. See there, and I export it. But if you want to say temporarily, let's see. Let's say, for example, you're used to using Nano, and you want to temporarily use Nano. Editor equals bin Nano. Maybe it's user bin Nano. Cron tab E. So let's suppose that I have Nano installed on my computer in user bin, and I don't want to use VI. This is how you would edit your cron tab file using Nano. Now you know what? I don't have Nano installed, so that's why I didn't pull up Nano. And I'm not going to install it for the purposes of this demonstration. So there. But that's a way to do it. You can change your editor exported variable, or you can temporarily set it on the command line in this way. Groovy? So I will.
Groovy.
Let me change back to the presentation again. So yeah, so that's where I said editor or visual. If you do export those, if you want to say use Nano or gedit, whatever your particular text editor of choice is, I would recommend putting in your bash RC and export to those.
You might also consider putting it in .profile so it's only executed once when you log in.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. It should go in your profile or your bash RC or your bash profile. You're right. And profile is sourced not only by bash but also anything that is Bourne shell like or understands Bourne shell. So I think even yeah. So yeah, and just so everyone knows, VIPW and visudo and git also use this variable editor visual or visual. So it might be good just to set that anyway. Again, cron tab-e does verification. You saw where I put in some errors. The manual pages in section 1. You saw me do a cron tab-l. The question had come up earlier about cron tab files. There are multiple cron tab files. They're all collated together to make one cron tab one cron table to be run at to be checked every minute. Your distribution will have it may be in a different location, but on my distribution, which is Debian based, in other words, Ubuntu based in my case, it's in etc cron tab. It has an additional field, the field between the command and the last field, the day of the week, takes username as a field. So I can run a particular command or a job as any particular user. I just need to put that, and it's a required field. So you are required to have 7 fields in that case in the cron tab file. I usually leave this file alone, let the distribution take care of it. And let me share again my command line just to show you what it looks like for me. And it is over here. Is that the right one? Yeah. So if I have the etc cron tab, again, that it may be a different location for your distribution. You'll see here they've got that comment that I always have at the beginning. They expanded it, make it look a lot nicer, and tell you all the different variables that you can have there. But it's essentially the same thing. And what they've got here is running as root. This is the 6th field now. All these different commands. For this first one, let's see. every day of the week, every day of the month, every day of the every hour on the 17th of the hour. So 17 past the hour. CD to slash and do this run parts command with a report on etc cron hourly. So everything in the etc cron hourly directory gets run with run parts, which run parts just looks in a directory and runs everything in it. So, and that's run every hour. Everything in this directory called cron.hourly is run on the hour on the 17th minute past the hour. Likewise, the other three entries here, it runs everything in the daily, and that's done on every day at 6:25 every day. The weekly jobs are run at 6:47 on Sundays. The monthly jobs are run on the first of the month at 6:52. That is, of course, unless an Acron is installed. So that's what that's doing. Again, I usually leave this file alone and let the distribution handle it. But that's what's good to know. Going back to my presentation here, excuse me. Any questions thus far? So cron tab, like I said, has the sixth field called username. There's another directory in most distributions called the etc cron.d directory. And following Unix standard, the .d indicates that it is a directory. Everything in this directory is run as its own file, and everything in the files in it are run as cron tab files. They also have the additional sixth username field. So this is usually where I put stuff. If I want to run, say, some sort of backup job as my backup user, I would put a file in this etc cron.d directory, call it backup, and tell it to run backups, not only weekly, daily, monthly, or hourly or minutely if I want to, but I can put all that in using the cron tab format in this one file called backup in this directory called etc cron.d. Now I'd mentioned that this cron.daily, cron.hourly, cron.monthly, and cron.weekly are all referenced in the cron tab, but everything that you want to put in these directories, if you don't care what time of day or what hour or what month or what day of the month, if you just want them to happen weekly, monthly, daily, just put a script in these directories here, and you want to name it accordingly. But yeah, so the difference between the cron.d and the cron.daily, .hourly, .monthly, and weekly is that scripts go in these lead directories, and a cron tab style cron files go in cron.d. Does that make sense for everyone? Am I unclear on what I'm saying?
Makes sense.
Okay.
With the daily, hourly, so it takes a field for, say, which user to run it as?
No, those are all run as root. So in that case, so if you remember when I pulled up the cron tab, the etc cron tab file, the sixth field was root for all of those. So you'd want to have a script in there that says run the rest of this script as this user, or something like that.
Got it.
If you want to run it as a different user. So yeah, that's another one thing that I didn't put in my gotchas. That's a good point. Thank you for that. All right, the gotchas. So I'm going to go over here to my example file on the right here. The year 2000, I was the Linux users group was started in the fall of '98, and I had joined after about the second or third meeting or so. And in 2000, I had decided that I was going to maintain a list of people who decided that they want to give topics and what their topics were and what month they were going to give that topic. and an additional list of future topics or topics, wish list topics, sort of thing that I'm still kind of doing now. I had a text file on my computer, and I emailed that file to the mailing list once a month manually every month. Well, I said, there's this thing called Cron. I can use that. I'll just send it on the first day of the month. So that's what the third field is, the day of the month. And I made it as a script, of course, but I'm putting it as a script for demonstration purposes. But I think I actually, told it to cat the file in the actual cron tab entry. Anyone see a problem with this particular way of doing it on the first of the month? That was correct. Anyone see any problem?
It's going to run every minute.
It ran every minute. You're absolutely right. I got a call from my boss, who was also a member at the time, at 7 or 7:30 or something like that. He said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What? What happened?" He was my boss. I thought, I killed production or something like that. And he's like, "What are you doing? You're sending so many emails." I'm like, "What? Oh no, because I'd set it up earlier in the week, and this was a Saturday. Was the first of the month, the following month. So I had been emailing this list to everyone on the mailing list for every minute since midnight. Yeah, that was a little embarrassing. So don't do it this way. I strongly suggest that unless you want to run something every minute, that you put in a minute and probably an hour, unless you want to run it once an hour. So this was wrong. That was embarrassing, and I learned a lot about cron that day. Some gotchas that you want to be aware of. Time change. So daylight savings. If you run, when does daylight savings change? It's like 2 a.m., right? So if you have a job running at 2 a.m. On daylight savings day, it'll run twice in, what is it, the fall, and it'll run not at all in the spring. So just be aware of that. I always set my early morning or middle of the night stuff at 2:01, just because I know that daylight savings time changes at 2 o'clock on, let's see, spring forward is, yeah, it skips it in spring, and fallback will run it twice. Yeah, so yeah, something to be aware of. If you want to update the time using if you want NTP to update the time, for example, you use NTPD-GQ, or you use the old-fashioned deprecated NTP date command to update your time, and your time is out. Be aware that your cron jobs may run or may be skipped. So just be aware of that. Also, if you change your time zone, when you installed it it defaulted to Zulu time, Greenwich Mean Time, UTC, you decide to put it to Eastern Standard Time, your cron jobs may change because cron looks at the local time. So whatever time zone it currently is, that's when jobs are run. Okay. As was questioned earlier, you should have a mail transport agent installed. If you want the output of this stuff and you don't send it to a file, you should have it an MTA installed, or else mail gets thrown away and just evaporates. Now, you may have seen earlier that there were some variables in the Etsy cron tab. There are some variables, but the one that I wanted to highlight here was related to the mail transport agent is the mail to variable, which defaults to the user whose cron tab or who owns the cron tab. So whenever in my cron tab file, mail to is going to mail to me, for example. And this is on a per file, per cron tab basis. So root mail to is going to be root. Mine is going to be Jace, and anything for the Apache user, it will email. Output will be emailed to the Apache user, which is a problem if Apache doesn't have a mailbox, or Apache at mycompany.com doesn't exist. If you don't want to have mail, you can set it to quote quote equal to quote quote, and then mail won't be sent at all. You could, though, you could also have a comma separated list. Mail2 accepts a comma separated list of multiple users that you could add in addition to, well, it wouldn't be in addition to yourself, it would be in replacement for yourself. So you probably want to put yourself in there in your mail2 equals something, comma, something, Jace, comma, blah, 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 that sort of thing. So just be aware, if you don't have mail2 set in your particular crontab file, they present a problem. Be aware that all the output will be mailed. So whether it passes or it fails, you're going to get both the standard output and the standard error, and it's going to come mixed. It may be mixed. Whenever you get an error, that's when standard error gets put out. This is just like on the command line, though. So if you don't want to have it mixed, then you may want to redirect those to a different file. So for example, if you don't care about getting an email every time it fails, or every time it passes, sorry, every time your job runs without any problem, you might just want to redirect it to dev null, the standard out. And that way you'll only get emailed whenever there was a failure or some standard error of some sort. Alternatively, you could redirect your standard out to a file and then use the OR operator and cat that file as your output to your email. I suggest you use a script. Usually, you want to have if it's a very long and complicated sort of cron job, put it in a script somewhere and just call that script from cron in your crontab file. I think I saw in the man page of crontab that there was a number of character limit, but I think it's something like 2,000. So it's pretty long, but it's not a full script length, So you saw here that I just, for my example, I created a shell script called email UC log. So it's kind of a good way to put all kinds of different things and checks and blah 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 in my script here, and that way I don't have to put it in the cron tab. Be sure that your cron jobs end. If you have an infinite loop, you're going to have problems. You're not ever going to see any email, and so you're never going to know if it failed or passed, and then you're going to use up all your resources on your computer eventually. It may take a long time, but anyway. So one thing that I discovered not too long ago, actually, a couple years ago, is that percent symbol is special for the command. So if you have a command that you need to run that uses the percent, you need to quote it using a backslash, and only the backslash will work. So it's a backslash percent is what you need to replace it with. You can't use single quotes or double quotes in your command, because that won't be quoting the percent symbol in your command. The cron tab only understands the backslash. It was in the process of setting up this talk that I actually read the man page and understood and found out what it means, what percent is used for. It is replaced with a new line character, and everything after that is standard in for the rest of the command. I didn't know that. For all these years, I've been doing echo, blah, 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 and piping it to something as a standard in. Now I can put percent and then my standard in at the end of my cron job. Didn't know that. The question was asked earlier, how do you continue a line? Well, you can't continue a line. There is no, because this is a table, you just like in a CSV file, or just like in a database row, there is no line continuation character. So if you put a backslash at the end of the line, it's not going to work. It's not going to do anything. You can't continue to the next line. Remember, this is a table. This is not a script. Does that answer your question from earlier? I think it was Bobby that asked that.
It was, yeah. Actually, I was of the. I believe you can use the percent to do that. If you put more than 1%, I believe it allows you to put in multiple lines. I'm checking that right now, actually, just to make sure my memory is right.
Oh, interesting. See, this is the reason I love giving presentations, because I learn myself. I'll let you look that up while I go a little further. Feel free to interrupt me whenever I come to a pause. Okay.
When I get it, will
Yeah,
do.
exactly.
Thank you.
One thing that I recently learned, and I say recently, within the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, my recommendation is that you should either have the day of the month or the day of the year should always be a star. You can't use, well, you can, but just be aware there are side effects if you don't. So let me go over to the right side here and go to my second paragraph to show you what I was wanting to do a couple years ago. I was patching. I was setting up a cron job to patch every third Monday of the month, right, at 2:01 a.m. Right, and let's assume that echo third Monday of the month is my patching command. So I thought what I could do is, all right, so the third week of the month, it would be somewhere between 15 and 21, right? Because 14, if a Monday were on the 14th, if it's the 14th, that would be the second week. That would be the second Monday of the week. The 22nd would be the fourth Monday of the month. So it's got to be anywhere between 15 and 21. And so I'd use the fifth field here as Monday, which is 1. I thought this would run every third Monday of the month. Turns out that's not the case. What actually happens here is this command will run on the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, and the 21st of every month. And it will also run on every Monday of the month. So for the day of the month and the day of the week, day of the month and the day of the week, it's kind of an or situation. I've started to think of it as or. Everything else is kind of an and situation. These are or. So this command runs every Monday and every day of the third week. It's a really strange thing. So what I had to do was I had to add a lot of different things. First of all, I replaced the day of the week from Monday to star. Now this cron job, okay. So now remember, I said that you can't continue with the backslash. I would. This is just a wrapping. Okay, so for the purposes of demonstration, to fit on the screen for this demo presentation, assume this is all on one line. Okay, so this is all a single line. So what I had to do was run on the third week of every month, every day of the third week of the month. I needed to add this additional section here before my echo command. I'm going to go from the inside the onion and go out. So I run the date command, and you remember that percent is special, so I had to backslash quote it, right? So for the date command, if you do a plus %W, that will tell you today's. So if you're not familiar with the date command tells you the current date and time. You can tell date, I want you to tell me only a specific thing about today's date and time. You could say, I only want today's just the date, or I want just the time, or I want just the hour, or I want just the year, or something like that. The plus %W is the day of the week in numeric format. You can also give it, it'll give it. Date will also tell you the word. It would have said Monday. Excuse me. But the plus %W gives me the day of the week in the same format that Cron uses, which would be on Mondays would be 1. So I had to, like I say, I had to quote the percent with a backslash. So date plus backslash %W gives me today's day of the week in the format of 0 to 7. 0 to 6 probably. That is with the $ paren, it takes the output of date and puts it in as the value here. Then I do a test. The bracket is the test command, of course. So I do a check to see if the dates on the 15th through the 21st are Monday, which would be 1. So if it equals 1, then I run the rest of the command. That's what the double ampersand, the and, does. If it were, say, for example, if I were to run date plus %W on my command line right now, I would show 2 because today is Tuesday. So this command, this cron job, runs every day of the 3rd day of the week, the 15th through the 21st, in other words, checks to see if it's a Monday by running the date command, verifying it is equal to 1, and then ending it with my patch command there, which is echo third Monday of the month. A little complicated. Any questions? And those of you that understand what I got here, don't ask a question. But if you don't understand, please ask for clarification. You'll have to unmute too. I forgot to mention it. Okay, hearing none. My last job, they wanted to do patching every 3rd Monday at 2:01. This was to match their sprint. They have a 3-week sprint, right? So every 3 weeks, not the 3rd week of the month, but every 3 weeks, they wanted to do their patching. So I had to go in the different route. Instead of checking if the date is the 15th through 21st, in other words, the 3rd week of the month, I would run it on every Monday, which is what the one in the 5th field here is. And again, I'll go from the inside out. Date plus %V, which would %V given to the date command tells me the week number of the year. So there are 52 weeks in a year. So this would give me a value from 1 to 52, right? What I do then is using the $paren from the shell is a math operation. I do a %3, which is the % operator is the modulus. In other words, if you don't remember modulus from elementary mathematics from your elementary school time, that is the modulus is the remainder of a division. So 1 modulus 3 will give me 1. 2 modulus 3 gives me 2. 3 modulus 3 gives me 0. 4 modulus 3 gives me 1, right? So that's the remainder. If you want to think of it as remainder, that's what the modulus operator. I also had to quote it since % is special. So this will tell me, in the 1st week of the year, it would give me this part from the $paren to the paren would give me 1. The 2nd week of the year would give me 2. The 3rd week of the year would give me 0. The 4th would give me 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, all the way to the end of the year. And that's when I would check to see if it matches this, the one here. Kind of arbitrary when they started their sprint, so I just had to look what is this week's. I know that this is the end of their sprint, and they want to patch at the end of their sprint, so it's got to match today's. I don't know if that makes any sense, but there again, I do a test command, the square brackets, and I do an ampersand and my patching command here. That was a lot more complicated, so I'm hoping that there's probably, or I'm guessing there might be a question. Any questions? None? Finally, I should have pulled this up ahead of time. I've got here at the end the website of Cron Tab Guru, which is a great resource that I actually still use because I don't want to email everyone on the 1st of the month every minute. So I still check after myself. Not a bad idea to check after yourself, right? So I'm just gonna pull up that website here. and crontab.guru is a web page that, and actually let me enable JavaScript, that you can check what your crontab listing is and should be, and it puts it in verbiage up here at the top, and it'll even show you a list of when it would happen next. So here's the example that they have. It's 54 star star star, and it doesn't have the command, but you understand that there's a command there, right? So this will run at 4:05 every day. 4:05, and look at that, it even highlights every day of the month, every day of the week, every month. So let me pull up this what I had there at the end in my examples. I'm just going to copy and paste it. Copy, paste, do that. So at 2:01 on every day of the month from 15 through 21 of every month of every year. So you see they put up here at the top at 2:01 and every day of the month from 15 through 21, and then they give you examples here later on. So it's really great. Let me get to the one that was incorrect, just to show you what I learned from this later on, and it was just that. And on Monday, that was what I was not expecting. So it's that command would have run what I thought was going to be running on the third Monday of the month is actually running every day of the month from 15 through 21 and on Monday. So this you and I would probably say the third week of the month, but technically that's every day of month from 15 through 21, right? So, and that's my presentation. Any questions?
I have a question. What if you start a cron job that runs every minute and the actual process goes longer than a minute? So it's stacking them up.
Right. Yeah. Whenever it finishes is when Cron will email. So in fact that happens for me whenever I do patching. Patching doesn't happen in less than a minute. It takes several minutes. So usually the timestamp of the emails that I get, even though I started the job at 2:01, the timestamp of the email is something like 2:15, 2:20, something like that. So it'll run until it ends. And then when it ends and collects all the standard in, standard out error, then it'll send that as an email, or it will send it to the file. Again, if you don't redirect it to a file, it's going to email you the output. But if you send it to a file, then you could like tail that file or something like that.
Okay.
Hey, Jace, doesn't Cron fork off a new process every time?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it would have to.
So eventually the server would fall over.
Right. It would run out of file script. The process table would run out of entries.
Yeah.
Empty entries. You wouldn't have zombies. No, never mind.
Also, I think Cron nominally operates at as a nice job. So if the load's too high, and I'm trying to confirm it, but I found a reference to the multiple lines, which I'm trying to test, and that is to use, assuming shell is set, $shell, %, first command, %, second command, %, third command, and so on.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
And I don't happen to have an example right now, so I'm trying to make one.
Okay. Yeah, it would be beneficial if we had that in the chat over on the left here. Yeah, cool. Editor equals
Add it to the chat.
Editor equals Emacs. Seriously?
Seriously.
No, that's great. I'm kidding. Anyone else with questions? Daryl, did you understand the whole thing?
I did, actually.
Oh, good.
Great. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Can you use it to do a backup of like a MySQL database? I assume you can.
Oh yeah, backup jobs that would make a lot of sense. And if you don't want to, like, say, if you don't want to put the script that does the backup in your daily, monthly, weekly Etsy directory, I would suggest creating a file for each one of those on the specific date and time that you want in your Etsy cron.d directory.
Okay.
As a cron tab file.
I would throw out as one more caveat that cron doesn't run the login process. So if you're expecting certain variables to be set, they may not be set in your jobs.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So it won't read your profile or your bash RC or something like that. Your dot profile. And if you look in the man pages, there are defaults for what the shell is. It'll be sh probably, for example. So if your system has sh pointing to some other shell that's not bash, then I can't help you. Yeah, shell equals. So, any other questions? Comments?
Great job.
Great.
Topics for next month.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Yeah, so would anyone like to give a presentation next month or would like to request a presentation for next month?
Well, you was talking about shells a minute ago. Does anybody use anything besides bash for shell, like ZSH or fish? I've been thinking about trying them out, but I don't know anything about them. I use binsh when I need something that has to be POSIX compatible and portable across multiple platforms.
Yeah. I'm surprised you're not getting a lot of people saying that they love ZSH, because it seems to be a lot of people nowadays are using ZSH. Z shell. What Z shell? Z shell? And yeah, I've also heard some people using fish, but fewer than those that are switching over to ZSH. No one here uses ZSH or fish? Oh, hey, Andy.
Hey,
Would you, so what time we got? Do you have time that you could?
no, I'm actually still working. I'm just muted on the work conference.
Okay.
They're being quiet, so
Are you on call next month?
no. Well, I mean, maybe, but I don't know if it's. Yeah, yes, I'm on call every 3 weeks, but but I don't know exactly if it's next week, if it's next month.
Well, let's hope there's 4 weeks in this month. Everyone, scheduled task using systemd timers, I'm going to say, is going to be presented by Andy. Unless further.
It's at the. I mean, if you've all read the presentation I sent, it's simple and quick, and would have been more or less a postscript to this one. Was what I caught. I didn't see all your slides, but.
Well, let me ask, how many people are familiar with the bash line editing or would be interested in it?
I use it, but I would love to learn more about it.
Okay. I'll see if I can put something together between now and the next month. Especially, could you get back to me next week regarding that?
Okay.
As a reminder? Okay, thank you.
Let me have your email, and I'll do that.
Okay, actually, let me give you a phone number to leave a message on. 803 714 1932. That number's already spammed, but I'd still appreciate you don't give it out. But you can leave voicemail on it.
Ben, are we still recording?
Oh, that's okay.
We're still recording, but I can edit that out.
Thank you.
Why don't you stop recording? Thanks a lot. Yeah,
Okay.
I want you to stop recording.
Okay. Stop.
Yeah, and do cut that out, please. I appreciate it. If not, that's okay. My mistake. But it's already spammed. So do leave voicemail.